All right, we are coming to a close here on our section on PHP for WordPress, and we're saving the past 10 most complex for last, and that is WordPress hooks. Now, hooks at a generic programming level simply allow you to add some of your own custom code into existing software. So they're openings in the software and the code that are written in a way that allow you to make changes and customize it without having to override it or duplicate stuff. So that's what they are at a high level. Now there are two types of hooks in WordPress. The first type of hook in WordPress is an action hook, and this lets you run your own code when certain events take place in the WordPress run cycle. Now, the WordPress run cycle is something we will look at in depth, but it is basically when WordPress is building out a page, whether that's an admin page or a page on the front end of the site, it goes through a bunch of steps. It might pull in these things and start to load these files and display this and check that that is there. And all along the way, at all of these different points, are little action hooks that let you say, hey, when this event takes place, when a post is saved, for example, that would be part of the WordPress run cycle, you could run your own code there. So those are action hooks. They let you take an action when a certain time comes up or an event takes place. Now there are also filter hooks, and filter hooks let you modify how content is displayed on a page or how it's saved to the database. So in a filter hook, rather than just executing your own code, you're going to be saying, give me this piece of WordPress data, let me modify it. So as you're saving the post, I want to modify this aspect of it, or more likely, I want to modify how the title looks when it's displayed, or I want to modify how the excerpt looks when it's displayed. So it may look one way by default, but with the filter hook, you could say, okay, I want it to work a little bit differently or look a little bit differently. And with the filter hook, you always have to return something, which is what you got in the first place. So if these are confusing right now, don't worry, this is a fairly advanced topic, and we'll designate a whole section of this course just to hooks. But hooks are a little bit different than some of the other things we've looked at. They're generally used in plugin files or in the functions.php file in themes. Now, we haven't talked about the template hierarchy and all of these different things, but the functions.php file is a catch-all place where you could just throw a bunch of straight PHP code and WordPress will be able to process it and figure out what's going on. So we'll come back to this again, but I just want to show you two quick examples. So one each of an action and a filter hook. So here we have a few things going on. First, we have a custom function being set up, and inside of that, we're using the WP&Q style, which is built into WordPress, and that's going to get our main style sheet. And then down below, we're saying add action WP&Q scripts, and this is the hook. The hook is WP&Q scripts, and we're going to tell it, hey, go ahead and add my theme styles into that. And we will look at how to customize and work with this even more later, but you basically have the WP&Q scripts hook, and you're saying, okay, I want to run my theme styles whenever you're ready, WordPress, in your life cycle to enqueue all of the scripts for the page, whether they're going in the header or the footer. Go ahead and grab mine and throw it in there as well. So this is us taking an action when WordPress hits a certain event. WordPress is going to be at the point where it's figuring out what style sheets to include, and we're saying, hey, run ours. So that's an action hook example. Here's a filter hook example. Here in this example, we're getting the excerpt and we're modifying it by adding a read more link. So some characteristics of a filter. First of all, notice this parameter excerpt that we're getting. You're going to be getting some piece of data with a filter. And then notice that the return excerpt, and then we're adding this link for read more. This return is also required. So you're getting the excerpt and you got to return it back. And then down below, instead of add action, we see add filter. Get the excerpt is the filter, so this is going to be executed anytime somebody tries to run the excerpt or get the excerpt. We're going to say, hey, go ahead and add my function here, which is going to modify that data and give them different data instead. And we're also seeing here an optional priority where we could say, hey, go ahead and run this at priority 10. So anything that is 11 or after, it will run after. We could say priority 100, which is going to mean run it much later. And you could set priority for actions as well. I'm just showing you the different ways in that it is optional. We can leave it off. So this is an example here of a filter hook. At this point, again, if the subtleties or the differences between the two types of hooks doesn't make sense, don't worry. You'll pick it up as you go along. So at this point, let's just review that action hooks let you run your own code when different events occur. Filter hooks let you modify how data is displayed or saved. You don't have to have those differences memorized. If it's not clear, that's okay, but those are the major differences, and it is pretty clear once you get comfortable with it. Now, generally, hooks are going to go in our functions.php file, or even better, in a plugin file, but we won't be looking at plugin files for a while, so we'll be starting off looking at how we could use hooks in our functions.php file. And again, don't worry if this is confusing for now. This is the end of our introduction PHP for WordPress, and really we're just trying to get comfortable with things that you're going to see. So at this point, you don't need to understand how all of it works, be able to nail a practice exercise without actually watching and seeing it done a few times. That's not the point. We're just introducing this concept and this term. Now, with that said, the last little practice exercise we'll do here is trying to reproduce some of the hooks that we saw in this lesson.